In July, we had the opportunity to attend the EAA AirVenture massive air show and
convention seminars. Like it's the AirVenture. That's really all you need to know.
Yeah, it is a huge event in Oshkosh, Wisconsin every year, and I'm thrilled that we got to go. It was thrilling in a lot of ways. It was overwhelming in a lot of ways, but I think overall it was pretty awesome.
We had a fantastic time. It is a little overwhelming, and as my uncle said, it's like trying to do everything at Disney World in one day. You just can't. The showgrounds are so big, there are so many different things to see that it really takes you the whole week of the AirVenture to really get to explore all of it and still not see everything. We only had a few days, tried to hit the highlights. We'd love to go back and see more of it because there just really is so much to see and do there.
You can camp on the grounds. They have Camp Scholler, and we did that. And I think I would recommend that. I mean, that helps because they have buses that run as shuttles throughout the whole thing. And so it's just a great way to have your home base right there at the AirVenture. And then you have the opportunity to kind of come and go from your camper and experience all the different parts of the show and the conference and the convention. And there's seminars. I mean, it's a lot of stuff packed into one.
Well, you talk about the buses. No, Camp Scholler it's a gigantic field. That's it. I mean, there are some spots that have electricity and water hookup, but for the most part, like 95% of it is just this giant open field that they cram everybody into. And you're like miles down the road in this camp field. Like you're walking a long ways to the showground. So those buses do come in handy. But it was a great place to stay because you were right there. You could catch that bus and just pop over to the show and see what there was to see and then pop back for lunch or to grab your lawn chair to go to the air show. Because every afternoon of every day of the show, there's a 4-hour air show. So you're going to want a blanket or a chair to sit there for the 4 hours and watch all the planes flying overhead.
If you want to go to the airstrip and watch it, you can actually see a lot of it from the campground, too. Yeah. If you happen to be in the campground, as they're circling and doing all their show and everything, you're going to see a lot. They fly right over the RV, so it's kind of cool. And you mentioned it's a big field, and they kept expanding it while we were there to fit more people in. So it can be a bit of a free-for-all, but a couple of things I wanted to mention about that is one is everybody seemed to be really great to each other. So it was, and if you wanted to check out, it almost becomes an RV show or a camping show at some point because there is every style of camping and camper and tent and rig that you might want is in that field for AirVenture. People come and see that show in a lot of different ways.
And a lot of rentals too, because back up just a little bit. I mean, this is, I don't remember like the 30th something annual, 50th something annual. I have no idea. I don't remember. This thing has been on for years. People come from around the world to AirVenture. So we met a couple that I think they were from Germany and they had rented an RV while they were there so that they could come and camp and do some exploring. So yeah, you're really going to see everything in this field.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to see it, but so that's nice. I mean, that field was there and they just recently built brand new bathroom and shower buildings. Mm-hmm. So very nice facilities, even though you're camping in a field. And we went in the road trek. It was probably our last trip in the road trek that we took and we camped out in this field, but we had great bathroom and shower facilities available the entire time. So there is that. And they do have water and electric on some of the sites. And there's a good sized dump station for everybody as they're trying to go, but it's a lot of people. So you have to plan accordingly on your way out that there's probably going to be a wait and you have to have some patience. But you know, it's a great group of people that are just into aviation. A lot of people own their own planes or they just want to see the military planes or they just want to enjoy everything there is about aviation. And it was my first experience with sort of that crowd in that capacity. And I really enjoyed it.
So within AirVenture, there is, like I said, the afternoon air show. There are also seminars all day long. So if you're an aviation enthusiast, if you own your own plane or you're looking to get into it, there's everything from the mechanics of how to build a plane. I sort of joked that if I'd started at the beginning of the week and had gone to every upholstery 101 and riveting 101 and flying, you know, I could have learned to do everything but fly the plane. I could have built my own plane by the end of the week. But there's so many seminars for that. There's 4 huge hangar show buildings that have every vendor possible. So if you're looking for accessories for your airplane, that's there. There's also a lot of the major aviation manufacturers like Boeing who have booths and vendors and tents set up with their equipment and their displays. So that's really cool to see. And so you can wander the showgrounds for days looking at all these things, whether you want to attend the seminars or you want to look for accessories or you just want to see all the new makes and models, what's new and improved out there in the aviation world, the new lightweight materials that they're building things out of. It's sort of like there's always RV shows and car shows and all sorts of things. This is the air show. And so again, you can see everything from the aviation perspective here.
And it runs the gamut from everything from ultralights to, large private jets. I mean, you can see everything there and everything in between. And then also on the show grounds, you could spend hours wandering around and checking out all the military aircraft that are on display. They had a lot of the Air Force and Air National Guard units had brought in everything, from small helicopters to large helicopters to some of the smaller planes, the larger planes, the big Galaxies.
The C-5 Galaxy, which took up the entire plaza. I mean, that thing is huge. I don't know how it flies. I really don't.
Yeah, they had, C-17 was there. They had the big cargo planes. They had the F-35 was there for the air shows. So that was there that you could sort of see it. You couldn't really get close to it due to the armed guards that were surrounding
it.
The
only plane at the air show that had a barricade and armed guards surrounding it. But what did we say that thing is like? I don't know, $100 million a minute to fly or something. It's something ridiculous.
It's crazy expensive, and it's the latest technology. So that's something that they're keeping they're very protective of it. But they also have on the display there at the air show, they bring in some of the older planes. So a B-29 Super Fortress had flown in, and we got to go in and see that. So that was neat. It was just,
those are cool. I mean, I think seeing the warbirds and seeing the World War II warbirds, because as we're losing that generation of folks, it is now up to our generations to savor and improve and keep those and preserve them. And the folks that have done a very nice job. And so it's wonderful to still see all of the warbirds at the show. The Mustangs, which were the pride and joy, during World War II, and now compared to those, F-35s and the technology and how it's changed, seeing them side by side is just really cool. And for the private folks that do own these now and allow you to go in and tour them is just amazing to really get a feel for what those boys went through in 1945, flying over the Pacific and flying over France. And man, there's not a whole lot in those spaces. And you get in that B-29 and you're like, wow, I don't know how you flew all the way to Normandy in this, but kudos to you.
Well, and those B-29s, the big ones by the end of the war, I mean, they are huge. And when you're in there, you get to go into it and you look and you realize the only hydraulic system on the whole thing was the brakes, I think they said. Everything else was all cable controlled. So everything the pilots were doing is you're in there and you're looking through the fuselage and there's just cables running everywhere and it's all connected and you hope it stays connected. But so that is neat to see that as the air show, or not the air show, but the grounds that you can wander through some of those. But there's a whole separate section of the field that they park these planes in for the warbirds, and that's where a lot of them are parked. And you can go wander the field. There's a trolley that runs that you can kind of get a tour of just the outside of what's going on with those. But it was really neat to see all of that come together and see the different types. And during the air show, they do a legacy flight, was what they call it, and they have the F-35 and a P-51 Mustang flying together, and it is so cool to see those two in flying in formation.
Well, especially when you consider the Mustang is going all out, and the P-35 is like throttling back so that they can go the same speed. One thing I did want to mention too is they do have, at least this year while we were there, they had a sort of a World War II Army reenactment camp there. So there had been guys living there all week in their old military canvas tents and their garb and all their gear, and also putting on display what their artillery and rifles would have looked like, what their camps would have looked like, and sort of demonstrating that as well. And again, kudos to the next generation for continuing to learn their history and take that on so that we can still understand, and understand what our guys went through and how they're still kind of going through war today. I mean, it's still a rough life. So, but seeing how much things have changed technology-wise is always cool to see.
And I mentioned the field where the warbirds are parked. There's also a giant field there where if you have your own private plane and want to camp, that's kind of the best of both worlds. You can actually fly in and you park in a field, and a lot of people put up a tent under their wing, and there was a lot of people doing that, and that was really cool to see.
I mean, it is an aviation event, so obviously most of these people do have planes. That's sort of what it's for. Not all, but most of them do. And yeah, my cousins go in and they do that. They fly in, they camp under their wing, and I think that's just really cool. I think that would be a fun experience. In our opinion, the big draw there is the 4-hour air show every day, where you do get to see everything from the small aerobatic type airplanes doing the loop-de-loops to the military jets like firing up their engines and getting to see their afterburners and doing all that cool stuff. So, it is 4 hours. So wear a hat, bring sunscreen, have a drink, blanket, picnic chair, whatever. But it is really cool to see. And if you're right there on the show grounds, they do have an announcer explaining what's happening, who the pilot is, how long they've been doing it, what tricks they're going to do. And so that was just really fun to see. Every day's show is a little bit different depending on who happens to be there and how, if the plane's working or not, or what their schedule is. So you're going to see a little bit of military and a little bit of private aerobatics every day, just a little bit different show every day. So it's worth going every day because you never really know what you're going to see. And then probably the coolest part is on Wednesday and Saturday, they do a night air show. So it starts about 8 o'clock when it gets dusk. You've got the folks with they've put like powdered smoke. I don't know how that actually works. I don't fly. I have no idea. I have an RV. But they've got the colored smoke that comes out. And then some of them have even put pyrotechnics on the wings of their airplane. So as they're doing their loop-de-loops, they've got fireworks shooting out from their airplane. And so that was really cool. It's not usually, fire and airplanes don't usually go together, but in this case, it was really cool. And you've got the Aeroshell team out there. And then they actually do a huge fireworks display. So all of a sudden the fireworks start going up and the one crazy guy in his airplane is flying through the fireworks. Didn't know that was an option, but he was really cool and doing that and seeing it. And then it was a really cool fireworks display, probably one of the better ones I've seen, including the fireballs and the pyrotechnics. What would you call it? It's like, during the air show during the day, they do demonstrate the bombing runs that the guys used to do, like over France and Germany. And so as they're going along the airstrip, they're, bombing the runway.
And they have pyrotechnics set up, so you basically get giant flaming fireballs that go into the air, But at night, that was even bigger when they did it as part of the fireworks show.
So it was like they lined the whole airstrip with these, and they would just go boom, 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 boom. So that was really cool to see. So
especially the first one made you jump out of your seat, I think, because you weren't ready for that.
It was so worth it. I think the night show was very cool. I've never seen a night air show. I've seen night hot air balloons, but that's very different. And so I think the night air show was something unique that you wouldn't get at every place.
Speaking of explosions, and you mentioned things to take with you if you're going to go watch the air show, especially if you have kids, think about ear protection for yourself, but especially for your kids, because when an F-35 does a high-speed pass right above the ground, it's loud. I mean, all of the military jets are loud, right? But it's something you want to be aware of and just be ready for, that you want to have some ear protection.
Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, most of us, it's so quick that, you just kind of cover your ears. But I did see some kids with ear protection, and I think you're going to want that, especially if you have little ones or sensory, issues of that nature. You're rarely on the flight line itself in any of the cases to be super up close to them, except for during that air show. And then again, it's pretty quick, but always a good reminder to be prepared for nothing else.
Mm-hmm. I think you just never know what they're going to do. AirVenture kind of pulls out the stops every year and tries. It seems to me, based on talking to people about previous ones and the one we went to, they kind of just keep going bigger and bigger and better and better. And so it's really neat. And that is something that there's a lot there at the grounds all the time. And in fact, the EAA museum is there and is open all the time. And when you buy your tickets to go into AirVenture, you actually can get into the museum as part of that ticket as well. And I'd highly recommend that. Take some time to go over there and check out all the different things they have on the history of experimental aircraft and helicopters and airplanes and all the different things that have happened over the years. They have some originals. They have a lot of reproductions, but it's still neat to get into the sort of the dynamics and the mechanics of a lot of things that have happened in aviation.
I think it's a good place to go on a hot day if you need to get off of the air grounds and you still want to look at planes, but you can go inside this air-conditioned building. So we took a break one morning and went and did that. Like you said, the reconstructions that they have, a lot of it they've used as teaching lessons for, whether it's students that are getting into aviation or people that are restoring things. So they reconstructed the Wright brothers, original Kitty Hawk plane, but they used it as a teaching method to figure out, what materials did they use and how did they construct it, and others along the way too, where they have found old blueprints for planes that were destroyed and they've rebuilt them. And I think that's really cool because you really get a feel for, again, how technology has changed, what they were using for pedals and rudders and the fabric covering the wings and all the construction. And yeah, there's a whole history on women in the Air Force and the military, and then the like the fastest airspeed and the around the world flights that they've done. There's a whole display on Lindbergh. Yeah, I just thought the museum was really cool. Again, like you said, the museum is open, I think, not quite 365 days a year, but it is open. It's obviously a paid thing when you go in independently, but otherwise you get it as part of your air show ticket. There was so much to see and do. I almost forgot that NASA was there too with some displays, their Boston Robotics dog, a whole thing on the Artemis system. But they also had a couple astronauts there that you could meet and greet with. And so I got to do that. And I think that was really cool. So there really is something for everybody, whether you're little kids and looking at the pedal planes, all the way to the adults going through the B-29 bomber, the ultralights, the vintage. So much to see and do there. We really highly recommend going.
There's a lot to see and enjoy. There's a lot to learn. And, you know, we learned a lot not being aviation enthusiasts. And I'm going to go back to this.
We're enthusiasts. We're just not owners.
We're not owners. We're enthusiasts. And we don't really know
but
a lot
really about aviation.
I don't know how much we know about what we're talking about. I know I'm going to go back as I'm editing this video, and we're all going to we're both going to make references to things, and the numbers will be wrong, the specs will be off. So do not use our video as a way to learn specifically about an airplane and its capabilities. Go to the AirVenture and learn for yourself and figure that all out. Get to Oshkosh if you can. We really think it was a neat experience, and I look forward to going again sometime.
One thing I would say is, like I said, we only were there for a few days. The event starts on a Monday and it ends on a Sunday, but what we discovered was most of the activity does happen like Monday through Friday. And by the next weekend, the planes have started to pull out because people have been there for a week. They got to get home. So even though you can still go Friday, Saturday, Sunday and see a ton and never see a lot. But to get the full picture, we would recommend taking the time, going for the whole week, but then just popping in and out as you get a chance so that you're not killing yourself trying to walk around all day. Like we said, don't try to do Disney World in one day. Don't try to do AirVenture in one day either. So if you can afford the time off and the passes, go all week and just explore a little bit every day so that you can take in and enjoy as much of the show as possible.
It's certainly a place to learn a lot. It's a place to see a lot, learn history, but learn about avionics and learn about aviation and learn about everything that you might want to learn to maybe build your own plane someday and then learn to fly it. So get to Oshkosh if you can. Keep on trekking.
And we'll see you out there.